There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives.
A bishop confronted Trump during a sermon while he, JD Vance, and their families squirmed in their seats. So I'm going to get to this clip, then I'm also going to get to the reactions from Republicans as well as Trump himself. First, watch this.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land. May God grant us the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, to speak the truth to one another in love, and walk humbly with each other and our God for the good of all people in this nation and the world. Amen.
All right, I had to keep the clip rolling there because it was worth watching how they were all looking after that sermon. This is something, so I'm going to get to the reactions from a couple Republicans as well as Trump himself in a second here. But I grew up Christian. I grew up going to church, went to church every week, mostly every week for years, largely against my will, but I was there. But when I went to church, I was taught that Christianity was about being kind, loving, accepting, that Jesus worked to serve the poor. This idea that religion, or I should say, what the right has turned Christianity into hating others, into division, like all this hatred, especially spewed at people that are immigrants or LGBTQ people, is so incredibly counter to everything that I grew up learning. It is amazing what they have done to religion, and it shouldn't be stunning to see a bishop say something like this, but considering what Christianity has turned into, at least in the hands of right wingers, it is stunning to see a bishop speak like this, the way that we were actually taught speak like this, especially in the face of Donald Trump. Now, I'm going to get to in a second here why, unfortunately, this is falling on deaf ears. Like, I'm glad this bishop did this, but the fact that Trump is willing to screw his own supporters, I'll get to that in a second. He's not going to care about anybody else. If he's going to screw his own supporters, he's not going to care about immigrants. He's not going to care about trans rights. Well, I want to get to a couple of reactions here. This is a right wing freak Todd Starnes. So he's a Newsmax host and a best-selling author. Writing here, Franklin. Oh, sorry, I never said the bishop's name. The bishop is her name is Mariann Edgar Budde. So Todd writing here, Franklin Graham tells me on my podcast the National Cathedral has fallen into the hands of LGBT activists. So it's not surprising this lady bishop, quote unquote, spewed hate at Donald Trump today. National Cathedral has become a sanctuary of Satan. Spewing hate is discussing the needs to include all people, to ensure that you have empathy for others. I like, look, you may not agree with what she said, but to claim that it is hateful is completely insane. Mike Collins, Republican representative here, writing, the person giving this sermon should be added to the deportation list. Spoken like a true Christian, Mike Collins. And Charlie Kirk says she was given a great honor today, a chance to unify America around a Christian message at the dawn of a new administration, which is exactly what she did. Instead, she disgraced herself with a lecture you'd hear on CNN or an episode of The View. What an embarrassment. Again, it's a message of love. So for you people to be so offended by that is bizarre, though expected. Now, let's get to Trump's reaction. He was asked about this right after he left, and here's what he said.
What did you think of this? What did you think of the service?
What did you think? Did you like it? Did you find it exciting? Not too exciting, was it? I didn't think it was a good service, no. Thank you very much.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press.
They can do much better.
Not too exciting. They could do much better. I'm not sure if you've been to church before. How exciting does church get? that's probably actually as exciting as it's going to get, is that sermon right there. So, he clearly feels a little awkward, doesn't want to be too mean to the bishop because it is a bishop. He did go to mass, but at the same time, clearly did not agree with the message. Now, I said earlier, if Trump is going to screw his own supporters, he doesn't care about anybody else. You could apply that to so many things because there are so many times he has screwed his own supporters. But I could even discuss the recent launch of the Trump meme coin, where people investing into that. Please don't invest into anything crypto, but especially any meme coin, are likely to lose a lot of money. But just we can go to a very, very clearly obvious one, and that is the big ripoff, how Trump exploited his fans with election defense fund. So this is a report by The Guardian, but many read any report about this. But they have a good breakdown here in case you forgot about this or missed it. So they exhorted Trump supporters to back the, quote, official election defense fund with their hard-earned dollars. Quote, if every patriot chips in $5, President Trump will have what it takes to defend the election and win, said the email that was transmitted on November 10th, 3 days after Biden's victory had been sealed. There was only one problem with this epic flurry of emails. The official election defense fund did not exist. As the House committee investigating the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol revealed in a public hearing this week, Trump and his allies raised $250 million from the emails by persuading loyal followers to donate to a chimera. So they go on to write here, millions of those dollars were distributed to pro-Trump organizations, including his own hotel properties and the company that produced the Ellipse rally in Washington on January 6th. Raising money for a defense fund that never existed, knowing that they lost the election, knowing that he was not going to become president after Biden had won, but stole that money to funnel into pro-Trump organizations, including his own hotels. If he's willing to do this, why is he going to care or have any empathy at all for anybody else, let alone immigrants, let alone trans people? So, I'm saying things that are obvious. That's all obvious. But it's still good to see him called out like this, because there were very few times you were going to see anybody, even a reporter, properly address these issues in the way that it is addressed, but especially when it comes from someone like a bishop, it holds a little more weight than a reporter where, a Trump defender can just claim, oh, this reporter is just, far left radical asking ridiculous questions. Here you have a bishop where trying to criticize them comes off a little worse than when they criticize a reporter, as you saw, one of them calling for the bishop's deportation. Completely insane.